We're now joined by former BYU quarterback and NFL quarterback John Beck joins us on 365 Sports. John, great to see you, man. Thanks for your time, and appreciate you making time for us too, and glad you're available. What does the Holy War, when I bring up BYU Utah, mean to you?
Well, that's cool that we got people now in the Big 12 conference knowing what the Holy War is. A lot of the times that was just for, those of us on the West Coast kind of in the area. I mean, look, it's a big game. I didn't grow up in the state of Utah. I grew up in Arizona for the ASU U of A rivalry. But as soon as you get to BYU, as soon as you get to the state, you realize very quickly how important this game is to the state. The state is divided, point of the mountain, pretty much. You turn that point of the mountain, things start turning red. And for all those Cougar fans that live up in Salt Lake, it can be tough times if you're not winning some of those ball games. And so it means a lot to everybody involved. And it makes for a great game. I enjoyed my time in the game. Those heated games, those big-time rivalries, they're so fun to be a part of, especially when things go well.
Why is Jake Retzlaff performing as maybe better than most people expected, except maybe you, because you work with him?
Well, he worked extremely hard this offseason. He got to play those handful of games last year. It was his first time, in the offense, and it didn't go the way that he would have liked. But, that's a great motivator as you head into an offseason. Knowing you're getting an opportunity, things don't go as good as you would have hoped, you're fired up. And the guy took advantage of every opportunity he had to improve on his game, to really take a hard look at himself and say, if I want to win this quarterback competition, if I want to lead this team, what are the areas that I need to improve? And he was focused on those things, and he's a good leader. He's a genuine guy. People gravitate towards that type of personality, and he's done a great job of leading the BYU team this year in the way that he's playing.
John, he also had the competition with, we all know Gary Bohannon very, very well. Did not work at USF. He was injured, but he had his last year at Baylor was phenomenal in 2021. How much did it help that he had competition pushing him, but also someone in Gary Bohannon that didn't make it any kind of drama? They just went at each other in a great way.
Well, Gary's as good of a dude as you're going to find. Has a great story, great work ethic. I loved my time working with Gary as well. And look, he was improving, and he was making a run for it. And I think that does help when you kind of feel that, and you know that you're going to be in a dogfight and you're going to have to be at your very best. That really prepares you for a season. It prepares you for tough games. It prepares you to take advantage of opportunities. And so, look, I'm always rooting for Gary. I don't know what the future holds for him, but he was a great teammate, a great quarterback. He's done everything just stand up at his time at BYU. And I do think it helped Jake to have somebody of that caliber, also somebody that's driven. You look at the sacrifices the guy made, the decision that he made to come to school, BYU, having already had stops at other places. Like, that means he's determined, he's sacrificed, he's willing, he's doing all of those things. How do you beat out a person like that? How do you go into a competition and perform your best and prove that you're better? Man, you got to put your work hat on, and that's what Jake did. And both guys, I'm sure, will say we made each other better.
Last year was a tough year for Kalani Sitake and BYU. We've had him on this show many times ever since the announcement. Well, they were going to play Baylor in, 2021 anyway, and then all the stuff with realignment, they would be a part of the Big 12. They have been a huge surprise. Maybe not for themselves, but they, along with a few other programs, this Big 12 seems to be, pick somebody down below, they're going to probably surprise you. It's a crazy conference, a fun conference. Why are they better in your opinion?
Well, going back to when things don't go the way that you want. They came into this season, nobody was thinking they were going to do anything. I think the Vegas line was like 4.8 wins. They're not even giving them a full 5 wins. They're saying you're not going to be bowl eligible. I think the taste in their mouth from the previous season, that season last year had high expectations. And then it felt like things fell apart, right? And people were pointing fingers. Oh, it's the O-line. It's this, it's that. It really takes a man and a team when you take a hard look at yourself in the mirror and you say, what do we really need to improve on? And then you get to work. I had the opportunity to be around some of those guys throughout the offseason, and they were always working. And the belief, they weren't going to believe what everybody was telling them they were. And I love that about teams. I love that about players. When you say, go ahead and say what you want, but this is what we're going to believe about ourselves. Now, the one thing I will say also, I don't think anybody could have predicted an undefeated season. I think the players on the team, what I like is when you are being told you're at the bottom, you're not going to worry about the final outcome. What you're going to do is you're going to take things one day at a time, one game at a time. You're not going to go try to get 8 wins at the snap of a finger. you're going to say, all right, you guys are counting us out. We're going to go get this win. And then we're going to get the next win. And how do we get there? It's each day in practice. I think this team showed that this year, that they took everything just one day, one game at a time. And now they're standing here atop the Big 12, undefeated, and all of that is paid off. And now what they got to do is just stay the course. Keep to that same process, no matter how big of a game it is, no matter if it's the Holy War, no matter if you're playing a team at the bottom, right? Like there's some Kansas teams, some other teams they play coming up that aren't as high. But look what happened last weekend.
Yep.
Look at the teams in the Big 12 that went and upset teams that weren't supposed to get upset. Like, to me, this conference, you said it, it's fun. It's exciting. Who's going to win this game? Nobody knows. And it's every week. So BYU's got to stick to that process that got them here for the remainder games.
Yeah, and they've had a couple of where they've had to take a deep breath. The late touchdown pass to win a game. Against Oklahoma State. Houston beat K-State. Iowa State at home loses to Tech. It's been a lot of fun. So you were a part of a hell of an ending, excuse my language, against Utah in 2006 with the last-second touchdown. What was that like? Can you take us back to that memory?
Yeah, it's funny. Every year, whenever BYU plays Utah, the week of the BYU-Utah game, I know there's going to be some interviews. I know there's going to be people, hey, remind us of that play. What were you thinking? Similar to this Cougar team, the 2005 game didn't go the way that I would have liked. And to have an opportunity in the 2006 game with a little over a minute left, and we were able to drive the ball all the way down the field. A lot of my teammates made some really key plays, and it put us in a position with a little over 3 seconds left to have one final shot at the end zone. And it kind of turned into a backyard play of just, playground style football. And we found a way to win the game. And it was the coolest moment of my life to have a game end and then just get to celebrate with the teammates and feel that feeling of like pandemonium on a football field. Like in a second, there was cameras, I'm getting interviewed, like I'm just barely starting to celebrate with my teammates, and it is just this flood of people on the field. It was one of the coolest, most exhilarating moments of my life in sports, to just have everything on the line, have it go your way, and you're just pure pandemonium with your teammates and fans. It was a really cool experience.
And it was at Utah, and
it was.
I want to think that you may have had 10 seconds, no pressure, and then you rolled to your right, went back to the left, almost like a no-look pass. That had to be just – it literally seemed like you had – like Jaden Daniels about 2 weekends ago on that Hail Mary, where he seemed like he had forever to throw that ball. It was almost like, oh, my God, I got to get rid of it. But you didn't have to, because there was not really much pressure on you.
Yeah, you know what? Lessons learned from previous experiences. You grow and you learn as a quarterback from what you've been through. And I felt prepared for that moment of I'm going to use my legs. I'm going to buy as much time possible. And, the cool thing about that play is everybody is involved. Like every person and the decision that they made to run the way that they did, to cut the way that they did, for Johnny Harline, the tight end that caught the ball, to stay where he did. Everybody's involved. My linemen, for being able to see that I'm turning back and coming the other way. And you see them go hunt out the guy that's chasing me. You see them stick to somebody else. All 11 guys and the decisions that they made in that moment, we all affected each other. It's really cool to be remembered for that play. I know me and the tight end are the one that get remembered a lot, but it's everybody and what they all put into that play. And quite honestly, that play in that game meant a lot for our entire team, our entire program, because that senior class had been through a lot in previous years, a lot of downs, this climb back up. And I think that's why seasons like this are so special for me to watch, because I thoroughly just enjoy that the players get to have that experience. These very same guys were a part of last year's team. These very same guys were told, you're not going to be a very good team this year. And so I love in athletics when you're given that opportunity just to believe within yourself, to go to work and to just push and grind. And then when a moment comes for an opportunity to strike and have something big happen, you strike. It's just awesome.
You're a part of that elite biometrics training. What is it? 3D QB.
3D QB. Yep.
Yeah. Tom House, I know the baseball history with him and how he also worked with quarterbacks, but also with pitchers. Adam and others. Taylor Kelly. This seems to be like I've seen the workouts that Patrick Mahomes goes through during the off seasons to look at every possible scenario, spinning away or whatever. It seems like you guys are doing a heck of a job, and a lot of people know what you do. How fun is it to work with other quarterbacks?
Well, thank you for your kind words. Patrick's not one of our guys, but he does train in a similar way with a guy that he trains with. And, for me as a former player, during my playing days, you're always looking at a competitive advantage. You're always trying to find a way to improve. And, the connections that I made with coaches and people outside of my team is what landed me in this space. And I loved being part of this innovative approach to quarterbacking, of trying to utilize all the science, all the data, everything that we have to improve biomechanics, to improve footwork, to improve all aspects of the quarterback position, and even the mental and emotional. After my time in the NFL, I went back to school and earned a couple graduate degrees in the mental and emotional side of things. And so just everything that entails quarterback development. And I know there's a lot of guys across the country. They're in this space. A lot of people do a great job as well. It's a fun space to be in because you get to be personable with the players, right? When they're on their team and they have their staff, they have the things that they're doing there. And when they come in the off season and they grab all of that and they say, here's where I need to improve. Can we integrate all of these things? And then we sometimes have great relationship with the coaching staffs. And then we work together with them of how can we help this player be the absolute best player he can be. I love helping people try to achieve their dreams. My dream was to be an NFL quarterback and have it go successful. And, came close. Things didn't work out like I wanted. But I love the opportunity to help others chase their dreams to be the best they can be.
Well, you've done a great job with that. All right, I have to ask you this because I interviewed Tom House a couple of times when he was with the Rangers. That's an individual that I had to really intently kind of listen to.
That's Tom. Yeah, that's Tom.
That's a different animal right there. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, you got to cut through. You got to cut through all of the other stuff and find the information. Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, no question. You mentioned the NFL. You were drafted out of college. You were a second-round pick. What was that experience like? As you mentioned, it wasn't quite what you wanted, but my God, you were drafted by Miami. You played with Washington, Baltimore, among others. What was it like, though, to have that opportunity in that time in the NFL?
Well, it was a dream come true, right? As a little kid running around on the streets in Mesa, Arizona, the parks, all that, you grow up wanting to be an NFL player. So it was very cool to have my name called on draft day. I was super excited to become a Miami Dolphin. The coaching staff that drafted me, I was so excited to be a part of that staff. They had spent time with Drew Brees in San Diego. So I thought, man, this is going to be great. But life throws curveballs at you. The NFL is a crazy business. You never know what team you land on. That 07 Dolphins, we went through a lot of difficulties. They changed staffs and GMs after my first year. So, it was a whirlwind. I loved my opportunities in Baltimore. I loved being a part of that team and that staff and that group of guys. And that locker room was amazing. And I got to go to Washington and the relationships that I created with other coaches that are now head coaches across the league, those are the things that I really kind of hold on to. Yes, the experience was tough and it didn't go the way that I would have liked. I had the opportunity to play in some games. I had the opportunity to be on, NFL teams for 6 years. And there's just cool parts of it. But the thing I really hold on to, the things I learned, the relationships I've made, and a lot of the quarterbacks I train in the NFL are quarterbacks for the coaches I played for when I was in the league. And I've just loved that closeness that I get to have to those coaches, to those teams. And I mean, even Gary Kubiak, Houston Texans, you look at the tree of the Shanahan, the Kubiak offense, all of these people that are in the NFL succeeding. And I know so many of those guys. And like I said, I train their quarterbacks. And that part is the really cool part for me. It did not work out, right? There was failure. There was tough times. There was tough moments. There was all of that stuff that, hey, it hurts. But I love the opportunity that going through those hard things gave me. I don't think I would have landed in what I am now had I not gone through those circumstances and connected with the people that I connected with. And quite honestly, it's a lot of those little failures that landed me into this gig that I have now, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, you learn from it, right? Resiliency, perseverance. John Beck with us. Some of the clients that you've worked with, Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, Andy Dalton, Blake Bortles, Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford, Carson Wentz. Talk about going through adversity. Marcus Mariota, who's a perfect situation with Washington. He'd like to be playing more, but helped them when Jaden Daniels went out for a little bit. Zach Wilson, Justin Fields. Trey Lance is on this list. And Tom Brady, by the way. Oh, I wanted to wait till the end to mention him. Trey Lance is in a situation, and we traded to Dallas. Dak Prescott looks like he's going to be out for multiple weeks. They have Cooper Rush, who's their backup. With Dallas going through what they're going through now, John, how important or how much do they need to give Trey Lance an opportunity here to see what he can actually do?
That's a tough question to answer because I know those guys so well because of my years of working with Dak Prescott, and I know Cooper Rush really well also, and like a lot of the guys on that staff. It's tough to say. I think that's a team that's still fighting, right? Like, I know the record's not what they want it to be, but, we're still in a part of the season that you just don't know. Can a team get hot? Can a team improve? Cooper's gone out and Cooper's played well at times. Like, I think it's very easy to fast forward and say, well, what should this team do if? You don't want to get past the if already. You don't want to just throw losses onto a team. Like, football players are wired to fight. Coaching staffs are wired to fight and to compete. And what they're going to do is that staff's going to go, and with the group that they have, they're going to say, what can we do right now? Maybe it does end up with some packages for Trey Lance. Maybe it does end up seeing him on the field. But I think the last thing I saw was Coop's going to go out and be the guy, and they're going to try to put together the best game plan they can. And they need wins right now. That's a team that needs wins. And, things are up in the air of Dak's return, and they're, doing all of those things. I just think you can't rush ahead of the what ifs until you let certain things play out.
Yeah, and I do know about the connection with Dak and Cooper Rush as well. Last thing, and John, thank you very much for your time. Former BYU quarterback John Beck with us. So BYU's undefeated. They've had a couple of games they found a way. The Big 12, usually there's about 3 or 4 games a year. And I'm not saying this is not the case in other conferences too, but about 3 or 4 games a year, like TCU a couple of years ago had that crazy run to the championship, got smoked, but they won 3 or 4 games at the buzzer. BYU's done that a couple of times. They're 9 in the country when it comes to the college football playoff standings. They're absolutely lower than they should be based on their resume. Do you think that that's a distraction, or do they have the ability to just focus on this week and go 1 week at a time?
I think if anything has taught them about how the season has gone, it's you do your best when you just focus on today. Like, they have zero control over what that committee decides. They have zero control. They never will have any control. Quite honestly, they can win out the rest of their games. What control do they have of where they land? So I think if they can understand that, right? Don't worry about style. Don't worry about decision makers. Their main thing is win this weekend, and then go put together the best practices you can the following week. Just go one game at a time, because ultimately the only thing that you can control is where you are sitting at the end of all of it. And then somebody else is going to decide. And you just have to live with it, play with it, and say next man up. Like, I look at the rest of their schedule, and I know that right now they're favored in every single game. What has the Big 12 taught us just in recent weeks? That does not matter, right? Who knows what is it going to be rain? Is it going to be cold? How's the running game going to be? Is there going to be injuries? Like, nobody knows what tomorrow brings. And so you just have to focus on today. And they have a really big one against the University of Utah. Like, I know that atmosphere. Like, I know University of Utah is going through some tough times right now with coaches leaving and players and, all this stuff. That stadium is not going to act like those things are happening. That stadium is going to act like every other Holy War stadium. And so BYU's main focus just needs to be that.
Isn't that crazy how we started this with you? And thank you, John. That a lot of people around the country did not quite understand or recognize the rivalry. BYU for a while was like independent or not a part of an Autonomy 5, Utah even, and then the Pac-12. And I hope it's a great game. I hope for BYU in the Big 12 that they're Utah's in the Big 12 too, but the Big 12 needs somebody to pretty much run the table to make sure that they're a part of the playoff and not just a conference champion.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so exciting to see BYU right now taking steps in that direction. And like we said earlier, right? Fun, crazy conference.
Yep.
There's some more weeks left. We'll see what happens. I'm, just hoping the Cougs can get the job done.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time, John. Like what you represent. Appreciated your career, and thanks for your time. Hope to get you on down the road, too. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. We'll see you.
John Beck with us, former BYU quarterback.